and we will get underway. All members of the board are here. Thank you. Item number 1 on our agenda is to adopt the minutes for the planning board meeting of January 6, 2022. We received them today and I have reviewed them and have no comments. Does anyone else have any comments on the additions or corrections?
Just one tiny weensy comment on page 18.
Yeah, that was mine too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's supposed, it should be close the public meeting.
Yeah, I
Public
saw that.
comment.
51 Beachdale.
Okay,
51
close.
Beachdale.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
Nope.
Otherwise,
No.
I would move we adopt them. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 2 on the agenda, 54 Clinton Avenue, continuation of public hearing for proposed modifications to existing residents. Yeah, that's, is there anyone here to,
Right. Can
No,
you hear me
not-
now?
not you?
Soon.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Hi, how are you?
Good.
It's not letting me share. I'm not a panel member. Thanks. Oh, there we go. There we are. All right. Crystal Pickard from Michael Lewis Architects. As you know, we were here a month ago, I guess it was. And you sent us over to AHRB. We met with them twice. We had a good site meeting, made some really slight changes to the elevation. I'll walk you through, and should be pretty straightforward. So this is of course, the front of the house. It hasn't changed since you saw it last. Walking around the side, back, and over on the south side, is where they had their comments. And it's these 2 dormers up here, just changed from hips to these little kind of gable ends to better flow with the existing architecture. And then back at the garage, we changed it again. We took out the hips and made it a little more in line with the rest of the house. And that was the only changes we made at AHRB, and they've given us our approval. So we're back here to hopefully get yours as well. Do you have any questions for me?
Not yet. Anybody at the board at this time have any questions? This is a public hearing. I move we open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Mr. Kybert?
I'm sorry you're seeing so much of me, but we did the master school and now we're doing this property. I'm surrounded by planning board projects, which I love. It's great. It's great to see something so constructive happening on our street. It was a great meeting with family and the architects, and I love what they've done with the building. I totally am enthusiastic about the project, with one reservation, and I hope it gets approved tonight. My only reservation involves how the zoning is in the NDR zoning district. It's been created for this project. NDRH zoning district was created for the right reasons. To preserve the classic mansions and the character of the block that they were all. Somehow it survived the decades when these white elephants were torn down to make way for subdivisions. To encourage the use of these large homes and smaller apartments, accommodating the need for households that did not include a single family home. That to be viable, zoning had to be changed from OF2, which made all of those homes non-conforming and complicated to preserve, encouraging their subdivision, to zoning that would support the adaptive reuse. We already saw this almost happen. Planning board, albeit with different members, granted the subdivision 12 Clinton Avenue into 10 single-family building lots. If the Havermeyer mansion had been torn down and those 10 houses built, that would have been a tragedy for Dobbs Ferry. Luckily, someone had the vision to do something different. But all but one of the building lots got a new approval for what was built, preserving the original mansion. That all happened in the 1980s. And that's why I moved here. I saw that, said, wow, that's a cool thing on this street. How about that house up the street? Well, so we went through an evaluative process conducted by the land use. The MDRH zoning district was included in the new land use regulations adopted in 2010. The reason that the land use committee is comfortable with the increased density.
No, he was just looking, he was looking at the zoning
Looking at the
map.
zoning map. Good, keep going.
Okay,
Sorry, we're listening.
okay,
And I've read the memo. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, when we read the, and I read the memo.
Well, that memo, this is.
This is a new one.
This is the live,
Friendly.
this is the live version.
Well,
Keep,
this is a Rudy Giuliani.
well, no,
That's not
I'm
live.
sorry.
sorry.
The reason that the land use committee was comfortable with the increased density of MDRH was twofold. The large houses that have already been functioning as multifamily for decades, but as grandfathered instead of as of right. This led to the buildings deteriorating. Since a building permit to renovate the buildings as multifamily would require variances. Variances, as they should be, are not handed out easily. Suggestion with 54 Clinton that variances or waivers should be required could easily have derailed the current proposal, which I think is outstanding. It was only the instant and unusual interruption by the planning board meeting by the building inspector that the waivers would be granted that kept the application on track. Right? You were all there for that. This block of large houses is not sitting in a bucolic setting surrounded by other large houses. It's across the street from the master's school, which has a lovely campus, but it is a use that imposes on the quality of life of the properties across the street, particularly between Cochrane and Broadway, where the primary entrances are located, where it seems to be the most convenient to stage buses, parking, and for on-campus events. And at the same time, these large houses back up to Osborne Manor, a large apartment complex. Requirements for that NDRH zoning district are clearly delineated in table B2, which sets the minimum lot area as 10,000 square feet, and it's 30% building coverage, and 60% impervious coverage. Applying table B3 to the properties in the NDRH zoning district is not applicable. It does not make sense. Table B3 is applicable. The numbers in the table B2 make no sense. The risk to the big houses in the MDRH is the demolition of the existing homes to support the subdivision of those parcels. The purpose of the MDRH zoning was to provide the incentives and tools to encourage the adaptive reuse of the existing buildings. We are lucky that the new owners of 54 Clinton wanted to do the right thing and were given the guidance to make it happen. At the initial evaluation of what could be done with the property included the need to seek variances or waivers. There's a good chance that they and the others who were using the same document cited the opportunity would not have been willing to take the risk. There are two properties left that are affected by this. Line 74 and the Romanos at 34. There's only seven properties in the MDRH zone. I put a lot of time, effort, and money to preserving Sunny Point. And I participated in the process that saw the development of the MDRH zoning district. All those conferences we went to for the vision. You will undermine the intent of the MDRH zoning district if you maintain this interpretation that a waiver or a variance is needed for the project. 54 Clinton complies with all of the requirements of People B2. The resolution should not include any mention of waivers or variances. That damages my property and Romano's. If we apply table B3 to the MDRH zone, 54, sets a precedent for it to be applied to 70 Clinton to 34, which is unacceptable. B3 for the MDRH zoning district wipes out the reason that it was created, which is to favor the adaptive use of large houses. Without the benefits that can come with 30%, 60% coverage, table B2, there's too much encouragement to exactly the opposite. Tear the old houses down, subdivide the properties. Thank you. There's only 2 houses left of the 7 that could do anything to the property. So, I'm hoping we can have a discussion. Your patience and time.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
The table B3 though is based on the square footage of the lot. Of everything. So anything that refers to table B3 is the square footage of the lot. You know what I mean? It's the it takes down after you go through table B2, which is the 30%, 60%, 30%. Then table B3 is an additional calculation based on the size of the lot, not on, you see what I mean? So it's not specifically aimed at any zoning area. So taking it, getting rid of it or accepting it for this particular zone, I'm not sure how you would do it. I mean, it'd have to go through the Board of Trustees. We'd have to discuss it. So that could be something that we look at, just like we looked at the MDR2 zone. Council's looking at me like I'm
Yeah, I
crazy.
mean, I think it would be something that the trustees would have to look at.
Right, yeah.
And perhaps seek the input from the planning board,
Yeah.
as they did previously, but
I mean,
in the first instance, it would have to, the trustees would have to want to make an amendment to it.
But would we take a look at it and send a suggestion to the Board of Trustees?
You could do that. I mean, you could explain to the trustees that you feel there may be an issue with the application of the provisions, but for this application that's pending, you have to use the code as it's
The
written.
existing code, or else it's.
because, I mean, we have looked at what we would have to do in terms of resolution to fit the current zone, and there's nothing that's really dramatic, but it's just, let's see.
Yeah, so the waivers are based on, there's, the 2 tables applied to the lot size.
Yeah.
But I see your point. I understand your point.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I mean, I've lived here for 36 years. And I get notices of anything in my neighborhood that's going to happen, it's going to change the property. I got no notice, no warning, no discussion was had on how what transpired. What,
You got a notice about 54. correct?
I know, I got a notice about
Yeah,
it before.
yeah.
And I wouldn't have paid any attention to it, except I was here for the hearing on masters.
Right.
I said, I'm gonna hang out. And then when I heard Ed Manley say, whoa, no problem, no problem.
Mhm.
Give them all the waivers and variances, it's gonna work. I'm like, why would you do that? Variances are, so I started thinking. I'm not, something I'm not understanding,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there's something I'm still not understanding. As you're explaining it to me, and I do want to understand. And I want to support the village, and I want to support the historic district, unless we don't want the historic district.
See, in the MDR2 zone, we looked carefully at the sliding scale. And, looked at, the size of all the houses and the setbacks and I think it was, finally it was adjusted and I think it's a successful solution. But you, Mr. Rob?
I mean,
No,
So
you
I-
don't.
No, we do.
no, I do. I guess what I'm thinking, there are two issues, right? There's how we treat the proposal in front of us.
Yep.
And there's this larger issue of the zoning. And I don't think we can hold the approval of this project hostage to another, your analysis is interesting. I personally feel like before I would contemplate the kinds of zoning changes that you're talking about, whether variances should be allowed, whether it's appropriate, you'd have to do a bunch of studies, right? You take those sites, you do a series of scenarios for how they could be developed or not developed in order to test how things could go wrong or not wrong. It's not something for sure that's going to be resolved tonight. And it's not, and when it is resolved, if you do figure out that there's some change that needs to be made, and as been pointed out, the Board of Trustees has to be engaged, and we have to tell them that we're going to go through this process of amending the zoning. So I think it's an important discussion to have, and I think we should look, as you said, it's going to be a lot of energy for whatever 2 properties or that are left or 3 properties, but still, if it's wrong, it should be fixed. But it has to be, I have to study it, right? I mean, you'd have to look at the size of these lots, figure out what's the worst thing we could do under the existing zoning and what would we run up against, and figure out, okay, well, how do we fix those things? And that takes some time, that takes some real effort and time. And probably we'd need some help from our planning consultants and so on. So I think it's not that I don't think it's a legitimate issue. I think it is. I just think I personally don't feel like we can hold the approval of this project hostage to that process, which is likely to take
Is it possible?
6 months.
Is it possible to approve the project without the waivers and variances?
No,
Because
those
all
things-
that village code is in place
no.
and you can't just ignore it.
Stupid me.
No, you can't ignore
No,
it.
it's not stupid, but it's the reality that you can't.
Right. I recognize that your concern is how it might affect your property and the Romano's property, I guess.
And the whole.
No,
that whole district.
right. But if the trustees are inclined to look at it, then this particular application won't necessarily set a precedent for your property. I think the issues that you're concerned about could be addressed, even if this project is approved. Follow?
Well, I want the project approved.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just probably, tonight, the application's before this board tonight. I think that it's ready for a vote. This is something that clearly needs to go back to the village board. And maybe at a future planning board meeting, we can have a discussion as to what recommendation from this board you would like to send to the village board, as opposed to just opening up the NBRH all over again. Maybe because there was clearly reasons you had the sliding scale put in place. So maybe looking at that and figuring out how that would, affect how it affects.
Yeah,
those
maybe there
particular
is a problem
properties,
with it,
right?
but
Right.
we'd have to study it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
When did the MDRH, when did the sliding scale, was it decided that it would apply to the MDRH?
I did a little research on that. It went back all the way from the
I
very
think it
beginning.
may
of
be,
it.
maybe from the, when
Yeah,
it
from
was,
the very
when it
beginning.
was adopted, when the zoning was, the new zoning was adopted and,
In 2010?
No, this was this last round that was recommended from this board. That's
this was when, how long
In-
ago?
in August.
That was for the MDR two. That was, the
No.
Right, but to bring in the MDR
No,
to, well,
MDRH,
Was created back in 2010, I believe.
yeah.
the
I think-
MDRH was, but the sliding scale, the new zoning, this falls under the new zoning that was just adopted back in 2000 and in August. And
In
so,
August.
yeah,
So this sliding scale has only been.
so the sliding scale has existed, but I think the changes, and the reason why this particular project needs waivers tonight is for the new zoning. That was adopted.
Okay, I mean, at the risk of, again, making myself look stupid, the idea that there was the notion of a sliding scale in the residential districts, I'm not talking about these specific districts.
Right.
I'm pretty sure goes all the way back to the original.
Yeah, yes.
Right,
there
there's
was
always this, the
right.
concept of the
Yeah.
sliding scale has always been, all because you have a lot that's twice as big, doesn't mean you should be able to build a house that's twice as
Yes.
big, it's gonna be out of scale. So that idea, that concept, it's a sort of contextual zoning concept that makes sense.
That was-
How it plays, and that goes all the way back to the original thing. So the sliding scale concept is pretty well established in the code. I don't know how many times it's sort of come into play. It most recently came into play around the MDR2 zone on Palisade Street, and now it's coming up here. And in the case of Palisade Street, we felt like it worked. It helped us actually manage the scale of what was being proposed. How it would play out here on these properties, we did that by studying, by like doing test design studies for the site in question. We haven't done that for the remaining sites here. So I don't really know. I'm sure the Board of Trustees, the first thing they would do is turn to us and say, well, okay, can you please show us what the possible outcomes are here under the existing zoning? What's the worst that could happen? These scenarios that you're talking about. You have to draw that and somehow test it with the individual sites. It takes some work, takes some real work and analysis. Yeah.
And it's only two properties. If those two properties just subdivided and built at maximum density, 36, everything would be fine, right?
I don't know.
No,
I honestly,
No, isn't the minimum of a MDRH 10,000 square
So
feet?
there's- I would get roughly three.
There'd be 310,000 size through lots on your property, right?
I mean, this is not what I want to do,
no, I know.
but I also 36 years of investment. All of a sudden it disappeared was it August that this got applied?
I think that's a little bit of an overstatement to say it all
we-
disappeared.
We changed one of the percentages in August. Well, the village board did.
So then I'm like, James, don't be artistic. You gotta subdivide, tear down the structure, and build, save the fortune that you.
No, but we understand that the goal is to preserve these last two wonderful houses. Yeah. So I think we can look at that.
Yeah, and see if the zoning somehow creates some perverse incentive to do something
Yeah.
different. So I think it's all worth looking at. It's just, it's a different,
It's a lot of work.
well, it's a different exercise than what we're confronted with tonight, which is happily, you love this project, as we do too. So and the good news is the one that's about to get underneath before this reexamination is a good project. That doesn't mean we shouldn't look at it, just make sure something bad wouldn't happen on the other properties. But that's a process,
I'm trying to clarify my thinking on this. I go over and over and over, because I realize, oh my Lord, I gotta pay attention. I have no time to choose it. So if there's anything you want me to do,
Well, thank you for making us aware of this.
Yeah.
okay,
I think that's valuable.
okay, I mean. There was an idiot that I talked to who said, you're losing 40% of the value of your property. And it's what? We should just have to take this other, think about this other path. How do I do that? So I come and talk to you guys.
Okay,
Hopefully it was
thank you.
helpful.
Thank
And,
you.
oh, I love the project.
Yep.
Can we approve it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Really want to.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thanks.
Here as well.
Oh,
Who?
Mr. Steinschneider.
Pat Steinschneider, B29 Broadway in Dobbs Ferry. I hesitate to comment because I don't think I'm always heard in the way that would support things. But first of all, I want to say I think you definitely should approve 54 Clinton tonight. You've given it a very thorough review. They've made really good changes to fix a lot of things. If I have a disappointment with it, it's purely that it's only 4 units and not more. I think it would have worked well as a 6-unit with 2 affordables. That's still something they could do in the future if they came back to the board. The situation with table B3, I think is simple but very difficult to correct because people won't look at it as being as simple as it is. When the table B3 was created, the people on the land use committee were talking about the single family zoning districts, the OF zoning districts, and the concern was specific. I went back and reviewed my notes. The concern was McMansions being built on larger lots that would be out of scale with other houses in a relatively developed neighborhood. The idea was to come up with a method that would restrict houses from being out of scale with the other houses. If you look at the table B3, it directly parallels the square footage sizes in the OF zoning district. In other words, if you have a 5,000 to 7,500 square foot lot and you're in the OF 6 zoning district, you're fine. If you have an 8,000 square foot lot in the OF 6 zoning district, you can't build bigger than you'd be able to build in the OF 5 zoning district, which starts at 7,500 square feet. It made a lot of sense. It's a little awkward because you do end up with that kind of jagged edge where somebody has a 7,500 square foot lot, they can build at 27% coverage. But if they have a 7,501 square foot house lot, they can only build 25%. But it served its purpose. It was never intended to apply to larger scale projects, multifamily. The definition that it is residential and that residential includes everything. When you had the discussion in August, it was actually even including the multifamily zoning districts like the A1s, the apartment districts. That doesn't really make much sense. And I think what Mr. Kybert has said is a real concern. I know when we did Wits End, it was mainly because it was across the street from my house that I was concerned. The village of Dobbs Ferry approved that for 10 lots because the people who owned it figured that was the best way for them to cash out on the property. The building was in terrible condition. James's house is remarkable. The Romano's house is rather, very attractive. And it would be really tragic if somebody came along and said, geez, I can take that, 37,000 square foot lot, subdivide it into 3 lots, and then I can build 4-unit buildings on each one. And I actually would have bigger site coverage doing that than what the application of the table B3 would result in with 37,000 square feet. That's the problem with it being applied to 54.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand that. And look, we should bring this up in a separate sort of discussion about this subject, after we approve 54.
Exactly.
So what a trustees.
Yeah,
Should be.
yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Good. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment on this?
I'm at 334 Broadway. I'm down in
You better speak to Thank you. And introduce yourself, sir.
I thought the start of it 8:00.
It's okay.
My name is Rich Gavy. I'm at 334 Broadway, Dobbs, Ferry. I am in the 180-foot driveway that goes opposite Elm Street up in the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
I'm the only house there. I've been to the building inspector before about a problem with my flooding. The only thing I didn't see on the plan for 54 Clinton Avenue was the testing that they did for the storm drains, for the water. Right now, the water with this light rain is pouring down my driveway over the wall in the back of back of my yard. I had a pool there in 2012. I was 55 years old. And the water came down so hard that time in 2012 that it flooded the pool, which is an in-ground pool that was approximately 10 to 15 tons of cement. And it was 3/4 filled with water. Like I dropped the water below the lights so that it stays in the ground. No one ever did that before, but I was doing, because I knew it was happening, so it was an old pool. So I'm interested in what the water testing did. I know they did a test for it. I didn't see it online. I only went online this week because I saw it in the paper last week. I did not know that there was anything going on with the Women's Club. Because the sign, I did walk up there, walk around, and I figured if they're gonna build another housing for cars, so they're gonna add one, they're gonna add one more, they'll have two, for what, 8 cars, or whatever it is, 9 cars. And they're probably gonna blacktop. So I'm gonna get killed. When they built the house just below that, when they added on that garage, I got more water, lots of water. When they did the field over on Masters, I got a lot of water. And right now, and then I already, the pool, I take the pool out of, I didn't take the pool out of the ground. I cut the pool up, buried it, and the walk with the hill that was there prior to the pool being there, we pulled it down into the hole. So it was nice that I had that hill there, but the pool came up one week and it was level. And I'm saying, oh, that's great, it's a level pool. I'll just come around and I'll make it like the Romano pool. I'll build a deck around it, I'll shove it back up, connect all of it tight, put all the piping in. And then the week after that, I had more rain and it listed to the right. So it wasn't salvage.
When did this start happening?
Years ago.
Like how many years?
Okay, it's been in my family for,
Mr. Chairman, you might want to have them direct to you.
You guys can't be doing this.
You need
You can speak again if you want, but you can't. It's not about.
but anyway, that's my concern. I don't want to stop anything, but if I keep getting water, I'm gonna have to. I've already dug around the back of the house to get the water to go under the fence before it got to my cellar, my basement.
Right.
And
I'm happy to address that.
was that?
She can address it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. So we did all of the soil testing and all of that was submitted in our initial submission. So online, you might have to go back a meeting to see it. Our percolation test came back very favorably. And we are adding a significant new stormwater system. So I would expect after we're done for you to be getting less water than you get now.
You have a copy of the drainage report that you did?
Yeah, the report,
we
submitted it. We submitted it for the first meeting we came to. So not this meeting today, but if you scroll back to the last meeting, I think it was January 4th off the top of my head. But all that paperwork should be in there because it was submitted. It's on there.
Well, I would have been here earlier if I had gotten the letter. Apparently, it's like 20 feet outside the letter.
Oh, no.
Right.
You know, just right where Romano's, everybody knows where that is, where their pool is, they're taking that out. I hope. They haven't used them in 3 years anyway. But that's my concern. And the other thing is that I'll get a copy of the report from this. I'll come down in a couple of days. But the Osborne Manor property. When I was here, when the pool first went down in 2012, I came to the building inspector. I don't know who was here at that time. Probably none of you people, but what happened was is that building inspector told me that they put in all new drainage down on Osborne Mountain. You look up, you could see the water coming down the driveway, and it comes right over my fence. And then it comes around, and then I dig a hole underneath the fence, so it goes back out, so it goes past my house, because it'll flood my house. It's been flooded before. And it's not a basement, it's just it's a heating, like I got a water heater and a burner, that's all that's in there. It's not even a basement. But every time they build something up there, when they built a big house on the top of the hill, then they build another house up on here, it just continually gets worse and worse. And I'm telling you that the storm that I had in 2012 was worse than the one we had 2 weeks ago. It was much worse. It was much longer period of rain. And I was out there all night digging up my yard so that the water would go around the door. I only have one little door there. But I did take care of that good stuff. And but getting back to the Osborne Manor, the building inspector told me that they had put in a drainage pipe on that side of the property, and they did. You could see the drainage pipe. It's right there where they ripped that blacktop, right over it. There's no water coming out of it. It's 12-inch pipe. You know, the old cement pipes. That's what's there. It's not new at all.
Right.
So I'm concerned about that. And I called the guy from Osborne Manor Management, Simpson or something. And they will not return my call. And they got a new supervisor. So.
Well,
What you've heard about his statement in the application, would you do anything different in terms of water management?
I mean, am I wrong? And I'm always wrong, so I'm happy. After you're done with an improvement on your property, right? The net amount of water that can come off of your property after the improvement cannot be increased. Is that right?
That's right.
Right. So I assume if the applicant has done whatever, yeah, like there are a long list of problems related to your property, which are terrible. But for this applicant, the only thing they can control is the water, to make sure that no more water is running off their property after than before. And I assume you're going to tell us that no more water is going to come off your property after your improvement. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
It's possibly less than before.
yeah, I would say.
maybe it's less, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, based on we're
Yeah.
putting in a really large cul-de-sac.
So it's right. So
Essentially, they're putting in an underground system, a dry well system, Cultex, they're called, 10 units. And what that's doing is taking all of the increase from the new driveway and the new building and I guess there's a little bit of a bump out to the building and infiltrating them to the ground. So there's no increase to the runoff from that site. It's not going to improve the condition, so to speak, in the surrounding area, but it doesn't make it worse. It keeps it either the same or slightly less.
Thank you.
Well, it would make sense to me to try to make it better because I have the same problem that I get water coming down from the houses up above me
I do too.
that comes right out of their drains. And, when you're doing something new now, this would be the chance to solve that. So I would say that you would require to keep the water on the site. Deal with it on the site.
I think they are.
And they are with
And they are.
There.
that they.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what's happening here.
Yeah.
You know,
Not
what happens with these types of
not make it
improvements?
any
is-
worse, but
Right.
make it better.
Yeah, it's hard, like for, this site to solve a larger problem, of course, but it's mitigating all of the changes that they're proposing.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to mitigate just the changes. I want to mitigate the whole thing. This is the chance
Can I suggest?
to deal with all the water.
I need to have
Wait a minute. Wait, sir, are you done?
Yeah, pretty much. But my suggestion is that Osborne Manor has to be, move that water from their buildings to the top, coming down. They have to restore that pipe.
That's not part of this application.
That's not how it works, right?
Tonight, we can't deal with that tonight.
That's not part of this application, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that, but that's.
Right, but that's- But there's nothing this applicant can do about that.
Clinton would put a pipe in all the way down, but they would be putting the pipe on Osborne Manor or my property. And I can't take it on my property. But to have a wall there, and I can't take it to it, I guess, but I don't always get water from them too. I get it from Woods and Patty, you still there?
Yeah, let's get Patty on here to fix the water
He was on
for,
the call. Yeah,
do a service.
I get water from them, but only rains really, really hard, and I think that's all coming off of the Clinton Avenue from the fields.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Why not?
This is real quick. I'm so glad you came up to talk, sir. In the late 1990s, I had to go away to California. And when I came back, all of a sudden, there was massive flooding surrounding Mass. And this has been documented. I was standing in 2 feet of water, terracing around my house at Clinton and Cobb. What happened was that we determined that they had repaved the road, took out the crown of the road, took out the curbs, and the new Clinton River was flowing by my house. That's why I have all those sandbags out there, all those berms, all that stuff that I've been building for the last 12 years. And I know the flood, he was getting flooded off of my property, comes right down over my property, down the back, down past 54, all the way down, there's a river there, right? It's been created by this.
I get way inside.
Yeah, I know, I've been there. And I'm just saying, I petitioned the village for mitigation, under the recent mitigation plan. And they say they're gonna look at it. But as I understand it, this Clinton River, that comes, all the water just slides right down the hill. No curve, no crown, no curves. It goes all the way down, it goes down through his property, goes back properties, and down Clinton onto Broadway and rips up Broadway.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's really important that the public comment should be
That's all
about
right, done.
About the
54
project.
Clinton
Right,
Avenue.
right.
Because I think it also can potentially muddy the record. So I think the applicant has actually provided information about how they're going to be dealing with stormwater on their property, and your village engineer has reviewed that. So I just want to make sure the record's clear that this is about the situation off 54 Clinton.
Right, fair enough. Good. Thank you all for your comments. So I think a lot of us have water problems and we sympathize with you. Any other comments from the board? I would move then and we close the public hearing. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Good. We do have, as Mr. Kyberd suspected, we do have a resolution tonight that I would like to offer on this property. Village of Dobbs Ferry Planning Board Resolution granting site plan approval. Property 54 Clinton Avenue. Background, whereas Michael Lewis and Elias and Rubai Elapopoulos, owner, are seeking site plan approval to make modifications, renovations, and additions to an existing single-family residence. The proposed work will consist of renovation and conversion of an existing 3.5-story mansion to a multifamily residence containing 4 units, 1 3-bedroom apartment and 3 2-bedroom apartments. The subject property is a 0.62 acre lot located at 54 Broadway. Gives the address. Huh?
54
Clinton, I'm sorry, Clinton, yeah. Whereas the planning board conducted a duly noticed public hearing in December 9, 2021, and it was concluded on February 3, 2022, during which all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to be heard and to provide written comments. And whereas the planning board carefully examined and considered materials submitted by the applicant in the support of the project, and a list of numbers of things that were given to us. The planning board also reviewed and examined letters, reports, memorandum from the board's consultants and the planning board's recommendation, and considered testimony and comments during the public process. Whereas while taking the above mentioned into account, the planning board is now deliberated in public on the applicant's request for approval of the project and the planning board determination. Whereas the planning board is familiar with the project site and the general vicinity and reviewed the application in accordance with the chapter zoning law and use law of the village code, considered other things, including traffic access, walkways, circulation, parking, stormwater, as we've discussed, landscaping, screening, lighting, and several other things. Whereas the planning board has now concluded its review of the applicant's proposal and finds that the applicant has satisfactorily addressed the criteria for granting approval in accordance with section 352. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board of the village of Ferry finds that the project is an unlisted action under SECRA Article 8, and based on the review of the EAF parts 1 and 2 and all application materials that were prepared for this action, the planning board adopts a negative declaration in connection with the project. And be it further resolved, the planning board determines that pursuant to section 352 of the zoning and land use, the applicant's request for waivers from the Appendix B dimensional tables in chapter 300 will be consistent with the purpose of promoting health and safety or general welfare of the community, and hereby grants the following. 1, a waiver from the maximum height of 3 stories and 30 feet where the applicant proposing a building height of 3.5 stories and 36.8 feet. A waiver from the maximum building coverage of 5,462 square feet where the applicant is proposing 6,071 square feet. A waiver from the maximum lot coverage of 10,924 square feet where the applicant is proposing 12,047 square feet, and 4, a waiver from the maximum square footage of an accessory building of 800 square feet where the applicant is proposing 1,091 square feet. Be it further resolved that the planning board finds that a proper case exists for requiring that a park be suitably located for playground and other recreation purposes within the village. And the planning board finds, in accordance with section 352J, reservation of parkland, that a park cannot be suitably located on the property requiring of a fee in accordance with the master fee schedule for the 3 additional residential units. Therefore, be it resolved that the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry, based on the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for the site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions. 1, approved plans except for otherwise provided all work shall be performed in strict compliance with the plans submitted to the planning board and approved by the planning board. And it goes through site plan, and it goes through other things that they've given to us in during the application. The following conditions must be met before the planning board chair may sign the final approved site plan. The following language shall be added, approved, subject to all requirements and conditions of February 3, 2022 resolution of the planning board. Any change? The plan B, the planning board's approval is conditioned on the applicant of receiving all approvals required from other government agencies. Evidence of compliance must be submitted to the village planning department. The applicant must address to the full satisfaction of the village engineer all outstanding stormwater maintenance and engineering issues raised in the documents. D, the applicant shall pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board and review of this application.
The rest you don't need to read it.
I'm not going to read the rest of it. You're right. I make a motion for approval. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate all the comments that were received from people, neighbors and others. Very helpful for us that we hear all the opinions of people that are affected by this. Item number 3 on our agenda is 242 Clinton Avenue, continuation of a public hearing for proposed renovation of a single-family house. I would move that we open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you read this last month that they were going to the HRV? They have. Okay. It's been.
Oh. I don't know why it's not sharing. Let me see. Applications. Ah, there it is. Hi, my name is Greg Sharp. I'm here to represent the Hoffmans. Peter, you are correct. We've been through the ARB. We've had a couple of meetings with the planning board, and we've also been through the ZBA as well. I believe you guys are familiar with the project. So we can discuss it further, or I can answer any questions, or as you wish.
What were the variances required?
The project was built pre-zoning, so there's some side yard issues that were existing. So anything that we touched on the building required a variance. So because we're adding to the building, portions of the existing building are over the setback lines, and that was it. Nothing new, nothing increasing the existing condition. That's right.
Of a non-conforming, so yes.
The only planning board issue was to move the cars in a little bit further from the street.
Yeah, we did that last time and we submitted that. So
Okay.
we've answered, I believe all the comments have been answered. The civil's been answered as well. And
It is a public hearing. I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
No comments?
Is there anybody from the public?
I love it. It gives me a graffiti wall to paint, and I'll be there. Congratulations. Nice job.
You should state your name and.
you'd have to get down their hill.
Yeah, in case they see the graffiti in there, no.
James Kyberd, will sign the graffiti from 70 Clinton Avenue. We're gonna call this the origin of the Clinton River.
No,
Right at the top of Clinton Hill. Everything flows from here.
now we know where to go.
Now you know where to go.
Thank you. Anybody online? Okay, thank you.
I will not overspeak, so please.
Yeah, if there's no one else that wishes to speak, any comments from the board? Questions?
I think it's a great
Very
project.
good project.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah, good. All right, I move to close the public hearing. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We do have a resolution on this. Could I ask you to read this one? We got a lot tonight, so we're gonna
Okay.
pass them around.
So Dan, just to be clear, I do the background and then go down to.
Yeah, thought about the last page.
Okay. Village of Dobbs Ferry Planning Board Resolution granting site plan approval for property at 242 Clinton Avenue. Background, whereas Adam and Laura Hoffman are seeking site plan approval for a first and second floor addition, basement renovation, a deck addition, and an asphalt parking area at a one-family residential dwelling. The property is located at 242 Clinton Avenue. And is located in the OF3 one-family residential 3 zoning district. Whereas the project will result in the construction or expansion of a single-family residence on an approved lot and is classified under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SECRA), implementing regulations as a type 2 action in accordance with the wrong code. Whereas this application received an area variances of 5 feet from the minimum required combined side yard setback, table B1, from the Zoning Board of Appeals at its September 8, 2021 meeting. And whereas the planning board conducted a fully noticed public hearing on January 6, 2022, and it was concluded on February 3rd, 2022, during which all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to be heard and to provide written comments.
Keep going.
There must be something else I'm supposed to read there. Where do I jump back
I
in?
think you jump back in it now, therefore be it resolved, correct, Dan?
Got it.
Yeah.
Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based on the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted, subject to the following conditions. Approved plans, and there's a long list. The following conditions must be met before the planning board chair may sign the approved site plan. The following language shall be added to the plan, approved subject to all requirements and conditions of the February 3rd, 2022 resolution of the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry, New York. Any change, erasure, modification, or revision of this plan, absent reapproval from the planning board, shall void this approval. The planning board's approval is conditioned upon the applicant receiving all approvals required by other governmental approving agencies without material deviation from the approved plans. Evidence of compliance with conditions and any such approvals must be submitted to the village building department. The applicant must address to the full satisfaction of the village engineer all outstanding stormwater maintenance agreement and engineering issues raised in the hearings and documents submitted to the board. The applicant shall pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board and review of this application. The parking spaces are updated on the site plan to show no encroachment on the village right of way. Okay.
Okay.
So do I
Make a motion.
submit the resolution?
Yeah, make a motion.
Make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda. Item number 4, 167 Judson Avenue, public hearing for proposed addition of workroom. Anybody online for this? Okay, thank you.
Hi. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Keep it short, please.
Okay, you see my project. It's a workout room, not a workroom. Behind the garage. In brief, if I can share, I mean, very quickly, you can see on this drawing that I submitted, this is what it would look like, roughly the scale of it in the back of the building.
Just for the
Here's
recording, could you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
Mitch Koch, architect for Jonathan Doherty and Sandra Rosas.
Thank you, Council.
Is this clear?
Yes.
All right. I presented this sort of aerial Google Earth view. There's 167. There's the array of houses on that end of Judson. This is relative size of the facades on the bottom. You can see that 167 is not the biggest kid on the block. And the addition won't cause it to be very much bigger at all. Here is the site plan on which I responded to the engineer's questions. And finally, just again briefly, here is the little addition itself. It's only a few hundred square feet, couple. The roof overhang, so it's maybe 280 with the new roof. It matches the character of the house. We went to the ARB, they approved it. And finally, I can't remember. Yes, you know, if you looked at it from the back, this gossamer thing on the right is my overlay sketch on where it would sit with relationship to the existing back of the house. And that's all I've got right now.
As a resident of Judson Avenue, I can attest that it should have minimal impact on the neighborhood. You can see in the back. Are there any open engineering or other issues?
Our comments have been addressed.
Yes.
We're good.
So public hearing yet, or do we have to open it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. It is a public hearing. I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone that wishes to speak on this?
Nobody?
Nobody? I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Nope. We do have a resolution. Could you pass this down to your colleague?
Thank you.
We got more.
We have a resolution,
Come this way.
whereas Jonathan Doherty, the applicant, is seeking site plan approval for a one-story addition to an existing one-family residential dwelling. The property is located at 167 Judson Avenue, section block and lot 3, 7170-151-7, and is located in the OF3 one-family residential 3 zoning district. Whereas the project, whereas the project will result in the construction or expansion of a single-family residence on an approved lot and is classified under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SEQRA), implementing regulations as a type 2 action in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.5. And whereas the planning board conducted a duly noticed public hearing on February 3rd, 2022, and it was concluded on February 3rd, 2022, during which all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to be heard and to provide written comments. And whereas the planning board carefully examined and considered the materials submitted by the applicant in support of the project, including as follows. There's a list of plans. and information. Whereas the planning board also reviewed and examined letters, reports, and memorandum from the board's consultants and the planning board's recommendation, and consider the testimony and comments obtained during the public hearing process. And whereas while taking the above mentioned into account, the planning board has now deliberated in public on the applicant's request for approval of the project. And whereas the planning board is familiar with the project site and the general vicinity and has reviewed the applicant in accordance with chapter 300 zoning and land use of the village code. Whereas the planning board considered, among other things, traffic access, walkways, circulation and parking, stormwater landscaping and screening, lighting, noise, natural and environmentally sensitive features, and whether the proposed project will exceed the capabilities of existing municipal roads or utility services. Whereas planning board has now concluded its review of the applicant's proposal and finds that the applicant has satisfactorily addressed the criteria for granting approval in accordance with section 350T52 of the village code, including consistency with the village's local waterfront revitalization plan. Now therefore it be resolved, the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site approval is granted, subject to the following conditions. Approved plans, except as otherwise provided herein, all work shall be performed in strict compliance with the plan submitted to the planning board and approved by the planning board as follows. Site plans
You
provide.
can drop down and just
Okay.
ask for a motion.
Okay.
It's all of the other things that follow are in every resolution, and they're just standard conditions. Boilerplate.
Yeah.
So you really don't have to go through those.
Okay, thank you.
Although
That's it.
you just, it did sound good.
I hereby attest the above resolution was approved by the planning board at its February 3rd, 2022 meeting. And that Mr. Chairman has been authorized to sign this resolution by decision of the planning board.
I think we have to vote first.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
Vote first.
Make a motion. So make a motion.
You gotta
I
make
motion to approve this project.
Second.
all in favor?
I,
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I had the same problem.
Hold on.
I know, I know.
Thank you.
I know.
training on this.
Okay, item number 5 on our agenda. 417 Broadway, Sacred Heart Church. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Scavone. I am the general contractor and representing the Sacred Heart Church in this application for this evening. I'm here to basically discuss some of the questions that were raised during the review process. Here for that. You're aware of the project, right? We're going to propose repaving and restriping the existing parking lot and adding some additional parking spaces as well as additional drainage so that the parking lot is improved for the egress of the patrons of the church, making it a safe and easy access for them, alleviating some of the traffic on the ancillary roads so that they have parking for their events and when they have their activities and masses. We submitted to you the plan submittal form, the affidavit to the neighbors, escrow account, site plan, the planting plan, all were submitted to you a while back, I believe, in 9/15/2021. We missed a couple of meetings. But we're here to figure out what our next
This
steps
was
are.
referred from the BOT.
It's here for a recommendation.
It's just a recommendation to the BOT. It's just a parking lot and some lighting and stuff.
Oh, is there additional drainage because of the additional?
Yes, they're going to be adding drainage. I think Anthony could speak on that.
Yeah, we did review it. They are adding Coltex, basically underground drywall system. However, they're kind of treating it like just as a detention system. So I did ask for some, in other words, it'll discharge water to the nearby Wickers Creek. So I just asked for some clarification on some of the calculations and so forth. I did speak to the landscape architect and went over some of these comments, and I understand that I'm going to address them with the next submission.
There is a parking lot there now.
Correct.
Is the size being expanded, or is it just repaving and so on?
It's going to be expanded to a certain extent. We're adding,
Used to be a pumping
I
station.
believe they're adding,
Because it goes right up to the fence now. I mean, the current parking lot goes right up to the fence, the neighboring house. Or it looks like it does.
what,
I don't know if it's still there.
we're within, from what I understand, we're within all the setback requirements. I believe that has been addressed. The additional parking spaces are actually going to be added where the people are parking on the grass right now.
Oh, in that front section.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
right. You look at it now and it's hard to know there's grass there actually.
right, exactly,
Because they're parking there, I'm sure.
right, right.
Right, I sent you an aerial, that
Showed the
showed, yeah.
cars parking on it.
Yeah, yeah.
The property goes all the way down to the edge of Wickers Creek. Does the property go down to, it does. Is that pumping station still there?
There is, I don't know what's there. There used to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There was a pumping station because the gas station was leaking, had leaking.
Oh, they
tanks.
took, that's what you were addressing, the wells.
Closed, I worked with the BBC.
Okay,
2021, closed the wells, it's a 30-year project,
right.
and we got everything closed, they have stamped signs off and everything.
That's fabulous. That's really good to know.
Ouch.
We'll all see.
Okay.
Okay. So, good.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Good. Is any other comments or questions?
No.
Well, I would think we should call for a public hearing at the next meeting.
So recommendation, I guess.
Well, this is a
public hearing for
this is a continuation of the pre-submission conference, so we need to go to a public hearing.
When they would comment at the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, Val, do you recall if a public hearing is needed
I
for
don't think it's
recommendation?
necessary. I was just gonna look that up for a recommendation. I don't know if it's necessary.
I mean, if the planning board wants additional information, they can continue the pre-submission.
But
But I don't think you need, I don't think you need a public hearing for recommendation. or
The Board of Trustees presumably will
Any
have to
neighbor
do
can
that
make-
when they,
Yeah.
Oh,
and they'll send it back here if they want us. But then do we send it along to the Board of Trustees with some kind of finding that as far as we're concerned, it's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you had any comments, substantive too, but it doesn't sound like there are here, but yes.
But
Certainly.
we don't have a resolution, so, or a recommendation.
I think it's okay. I think you could do it. I think,
Yeah, you don't need to have a public hearing for the recommendation.
no.
I think we could prepare a transmittal at least to the board conveying
Okay,
whatever you think it's like, and that'd be fine.
so I make the motion to prepare a transmittal to the board?
Yes,
To approve this project.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't have to read anything.
So when we come back, we have to come back next month with all these revisions. that
You
we're
just
gonna-
go to the board of
You go right
trustees.
to the board.
Yeah,
You're gonna go to the board of trustees now. Right, so you've gotten a positive recommendation from
Okay,
the planning board, and that'll be conveyed to the trustees, so when you're back there. they'll have-
You're about to find out exactly what that's worth. Which is interesting. I want to hear, let me know.
It'll be a meeting here, a Board of Trustees meeting. Yep. Yes.
Okay,
You could look on the village calendar for the next.
thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Nope, you're all
Your
set.
engineer would just address the comments from our engineer that he sent to your engineer.
But what was it?
Right. Item 6 on our agenda, 107 Judson Avenue, public hearing for proposed in-ground swimming pool and pool house.
Yeah, but you won't be on the, excuse me, sir, you're not gonna be on the agenda for February 8th. Right, it will be it'll probably be February 22nd.
It was leaking gas for years.
No, it's all right.
It was easy.
So they just discovered it.
It's functionally.
Yes.
Good evening.
I drove
Can you
over
hear
there.
me?
Drove over there. It's not a very big parking lot.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alyssa Manfredonia. I am here from Thomas Haynes Architecture Office, representing our clients, the Phillips family. I'm sure you're familiar with our project, 107 Judson Avenue, where we're proposing a new pool, patio, and pool house. Since the last meeting, we did receive the required ARB approval. And we have also addressed some of the comments and concerns that were brought up at the last meeting in regards to screening the rear side of the pool house, as well as making sure that it was addressed that the existing landscaping along that area will be maintained during construction. If you guys had any further questions or need me to elaborate on anything, I am here to answer anything.
I'm just curious what steps you are trying to take to protect the existing landscaping along the property line behind the future.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. I think this will work. Okay. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure if this screen share is working, but we have made the notations that the contractor will be doing all of the digging along the west side of the property by hand. So we will not use any of the machinery along this area. In addition, we'll also make sure that there is a barrier fence put up to make sure that the planting along the properties, the neighboring property side doesn't get damaged during this time.
Good. This is a public hearing. I move we open the public hearing. Second. All in favor? Aye. Good. Is there anybody on? No?
No.
Thank you. I move we close the public hearing. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Anybody else have any comments or questions, concerns,
No.
thoughts?
Any open issues, Anthony, that have not been resolved?
No, all of our stuff was addressed. They did bring in an engineer, Kellogg Sessions, who addressed all of our stormwater questions.
Right.
We're good.
You okay down there?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Okay, just asking. Okay, I move we close the public hearing. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a resolution. Village Dobbs Ferry Planning Board Resolution granting site plan approval of property at 167 Judson Avenue. Whereas Jonathan Doherty is seeking site plan approval for a one-story addition to an existing one-family residential dwelling.
We're doing,
No.
it's the wrong resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
107 Judson.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute.
Do we have it?
We have one.
107?
I have
I have
107
it.
here.
There is a
Yeah, I
resolution.
have it here if you need me.
You
to
got a
just have it.
107?
It was
Got it
sent
on the
around.
screen there.
Why don't you just read it?
Yeah, read it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
Ah,
I'm not sure where to stop and start, so feel free to guide me.
Yeah, I was yelled at.
All right, Village of Dobbs Ferry Planning Board Resolution granting site plan approval for the property at 107 Judson Avenue. Whereas Craig Phillips, the applicant is seeking site plan approval to install an in-ground pool house, and patio. The property is located at 107 Judson Avenue and is located in the OF3 one-family residential 3 zoning district. And whereas the project will result in the construction or expansion of a single-family residence on an approved lot and is classified under the SECRA as a type 2 action. Whereas the planning board conducted a duly noticed public hearing on February 3rd, 2022, and it was concluded on February 3rd, 2022, during which all of those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to be heard and to provide written comments. And whereas the planning board carefully examined and considered the materials submitted by the applicant in support of the project, including as follows. There's a list of issues that we looked at. Whereas the planning board also reviewed and examined letters, reports, and memoranda from the board's consultants and the planning board's recommendation, and considered the testimony and comments obtained during the public hearing process. And whereas, while taking the above mentioned into account, the planning board has now deliberated in public on the applicant's request for the approval of the project.
Probably go, can we go down right down to the end?
Sure, you can say now therefore if you'd like.
Now therefore be it resolved. I make a motion?
No.
Well, you would say, now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted, subject to the conditions listed.
Okay,
Motion.
now I make a motion.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? No.
No.
Passed.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're good to
Thank
go.
you.
Go.
Thank you.
Great ground.
Good job.
We have no other business. I move we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, leave.
Thank you.
Bye, Donna.
Not all.
Good night, Donna.